Imagine a place where your breath freezes the moment it leaves your lips, where cars must be kept running so their engines don't turn to ice, and where an ordinary winter's day is colder than the top of Mount Everest. Welcome to Oymyakon, the coldest inhabited place on Earth. In this remote Siberian village, survival isn't just a challenge, it's a way of life. In the far reaches of Siberia, beyond the snow-covered forests and frozen rivers, lies a place that challenges the very limits of human survival. A place so remote, so hostile, and so unforgiving that most of the world can barely imagine living there. This place is Oymyakon, often called the coldest inhabited settlement on Earth. Here, winter is not just a season, it is a way of life. Temperatures plummet to levels that can kill within minutes of exposure. The ground is frozen solid throughout the year. Vehicles struggle to start, metal becomes brittle, and even a breath of air feels like shards of glass piercing the lungs. Yet, despite all this, life persists, families endure, and most astonishingly, children still make their way to school every single day. The journey to education in Oymyakon is no ordinary walk to class. For the children here, the road to knowledge is one of the most dangerous and extreme in the entire world. Imagine stepping outside your home when the thermometer reads minus 50 degrees Celsius. Imagine wrapping yourself in layers upon layers of wool, fur, and thick coats, knowing that if you expose even a sliver of skin, frostbite could take it in minutes. And now imagine walking or riding across frozen landscapes, where the silence of snow is broken only by the crunch of boots or the rattle of an old bus engine struggling against the cold. 8-year-old Alyosha is one of these children. Every morning, while it is still dark outside, he wakes up in his family's small wooden house. The fire in the stove has been burning through the night, fed constantly to keep the cold from creeping in. His parents know that if the fire dies, the house itself could become a freezer. Alyosha slowly dresses, layer after layer, until he is nearly unrecognizable under the mountain of clothing. His mother helps tie scarves around his face, leaving only a small slit for his eyes to peek through. Outside, the frost glitters like glass dust scattered across the land, and the air is so cold it burns as it enters his lungs. Alyosha is not alone in this daily struggle. Children like Sana, a girl living in the same village, also brave this frozen environment for the sake of education. Their parents remind them each morning, school is not optional, no matter how cold it gets. To survive in this land, knowledge is not just power, it is a lifeline. Education promises them a chance at a different future, one that might not be chained to the brutal realities of Siberian winters. But the journey is treacherous. For some children, school is close enough to walk. For others, it requires waiting for the only school bus in the region, driven by a man named Grigory. His responsibility is immense. Without him, many of the children would have no way of reaching school at all. Grigory's bus is no ordinary vehicle. In these temperatures, engines must be kept running day and night. If they are switched off, the fuel freezes, the oil thickens, and the entire vehicle becomes a useless block of frozen metal. Before every trip, Grigory checks his bus carefully. He wraps the engine with insulating blankets. He ensures the fuel lines are warm, and he keeps a constant eye on the tires, which can crack in the biting cold. Driving in Oymyakon is not just difficult, it is life-threatening. The roads are often nothing more than frozen tracks through endless snow. A breakdown far from home could mean death. Yet, day after day, Grigory takes on this responsibility. Because without him, children like Alyosha and Sana cannot reach their classrooms. Inside the homes of Oymyakon, survival is a battle of its own. Water does not flow through pipes, because pipes would burst instantly in the freezing soil. Instead, families cut large blocks of ice from rivers and lakes, dragging them home to melt on the stove. Baths are rare luxuries, and outhouses are built far from homes. A trip to the toilet in the middle of the night means stepping out into temperatures that can drop to minus 60. For the children, it is a frightening yet normal part of life. Their schools, too, are built with survival in mind. The classrooms are simple but heated, offering a warm refuge from the punishing world outside. Here, children peel off layers of coats, scarves, and mittens, revealing their tired but determined faces. Teachers know the effort it takes for each child to arrive, And so education here carries a weight and respect rarely seen elsewhere. Every lesson is not just about math, literature, or history. It is about hope. Hope that the next generation may one day live a life not entirely defined by the cruel grip of winter. But Oymyakon is more than just cold. It is a place of beauty, too. The snow stretches endlessly, shimmering like diamonds under rare glimpses of sun. Horses and cattle, adapted to the brutal climate, graze cautiously. Smoke rises steadily from chimneys, a symbol of human resilience. The people here are proud. They know they live in one of the hardest places on earth, and yet they endure with dignity and strength. For the children, every step toward school is a lesson in resilience. They are taught from the earliest age that survival is not a matter of comfort. It is a matter of courage, discipline, and willpower. While most of the world thinks of school runs as a routine chore, in Oymyakon it is an act of bravery repeated every single day. For many children of Oymyakon, the school is more than just a place of learning. It is a sanctuary, the only building in the village that remains steadily warm from morning until afternoon. The classrooms echo with the sound of boots being stamped against the floor as children shake off the snow that clings to them. Mittens are hung to dry, scars are draped over chairs, and cheeks, red from the cold, slowly regain their color. Teachers here are not just educators. They are guardians. They know the dangers each child faces before even entering the classroom. A missed bus, a forgotten scarf, a broken zipper on a coat. Any of these small misfortunes could spiral into disaster in the world outside. And so, when the children finally sit down with their books and notebooks, there is a sense of reverence. These lessons are not taken for granted. Each page turned, each equation solved, each poem recited, carries a weight of effort and survival. Yet, education in Oymyakon is never separate from the environment that surrounds it. Lessons are often punctuated by the howling winds outside, or the sudden creak of wood as buildings strain against the cold. Sometimes, entire school days are canceled. Not because of snowstorms or floods as in other countries, but simply because the mercury has plunged so low that no one dares send their child out. At minus 55 degrees Celsius, even the toughest winter clothes offer little protection. At minus 60, the outside world becomes lethal. Despite these cancellations, children in Oymyakon do not fall behind. Homework is done under the glow of dim lamps, in houses heated by coal and wood. Mothers and grandmothers, while tending to stoves and melting ice for water, encourage their children to study. Fathers, often hunters or workers in nearby mines, remind them that education is a path beyond hardship, a chance to see a world that is not bound by endless snow. For the adults, survival in Oymyakon has become a set of rituals passed down through generations. Livestock must be sheltered in wooden barns, insulated with straw. Horses, vital for transport in areas where vehicles cannot go, grow thick winter coats and are fed constantly to withstand the cold. Frozen fish is stored like wood, stacked in piles, ready to be thawed when needed. Even meat is consumed in its frozen state, sliced thin and eaten raw, a delicacy and necessity at the same time. Children learn these survival skills almost as early as they learn to read. Alyosha, though only 8, already knows how to chop wood, how to cover his face properly before stepping out, and how to recognize the signs of frostbite. Sienna, on the other hand, has learned to help her mother with water collection, breaking apart heavy blocks of ice and carrying them inside to melt. These tasks, mundane to the villagers, are extraordinary to outsiders. They are not chores, they are lifelines. The village itself seems frozen in time, a scattering of wooden houses built close together, huddling against the cold. Smoke rises in steady streams, forming gray trails against the endless white sky. Dogs curl up in tight balls near doorsteps, therefore coated in frost. Silence dominates here. The only sounds are crunch of footsteps, the rumble of Grigory's bus, or the distant echo of axes splitting wood. Life moves slowly, but it is relentless, always revolving around the rhythms of ice and fire, cold and warmth, survival and endurance. Grigory's daily journey deserves its own story. Each morning, he rises before dawn, when the cold is at its most brutal. He layers himself in fur and wool, lights his own stove, and then heads to the bus. For him, keeping the engine alive is a battle. He checks the fuel tank to ensure it hasn't thickened into jelly. He tests the brakes, knowing they can freeze without warning. He warms the seats with old blankets, so the children won't shiver more than necessary. And then, with careful patience, he drives through roads that barely exist, paths that twist through forests and across frozen rivers. One mistake, one breakdown, could mean hours stranded in temperatures that punish without mercy. Yet Grigory keeps going year after year, understanding that without him, dozens of children will be denied education. But what truly binds this community together is resilience. In many parts of the world, hardship divides people. In Oymyakon, it unites them. Neighbors help each other chop wood, repair stoves, and share food. Families look after one another's children when the cold becomes unbearable. Teachers often walk their students part of the way home, ensuring they are safe. The harshness of the land has created a bond of trust and cooperation, one that outsiders, living in comfort, rarely experience. At night, when lessons are finished and the buses return children home, Oymyakon grows quiet again. The firewood crackles, children huddle under blankets, and outside, the stars glitter fiercely in the frozen sky. In these moments, it is easy to forget the hardships and see only the beauty, the shimmering northern lights, the endless white landscapes, the stillness that feels almost sacred. Yet, the next morning, the struggle begins again. Another walk, another ride on the frozen bus, another fight against a cold that never truly loosens its grip. For the children of Oymyakon, education is not just about books and exams. It is about endurance. It is about learning to survive in the harshest of environments while dreaming of a future that lies beyond the snow. Oymyakon was not always known to the world as the coldest inhabited settlement. For centuries, it was simply home to the Yakut people, a community that learned to live with the rhythm of the land. The name Oymyakon itself translates to unfrozen water, a reference to a nearby hot spring that remains liquid even in the harshest of winters. Ironically, this small miracle of nature gave its name to a place that would later be recognized for its merciless cold. In the 1920s and 30s, Soviet explorers began recording temperatures in this isolated region. What they discovered astonished even the most seasoned scientists. Thermometers plunged lower than anywhere else on Earth where humans lived permanently. In February of 1933, Oymyakon recorded a staggering minus 67.7 degrees Celsius, a record that still stands today for the Northern Hemisphere. Only Antarctica has ever reached colder levels. But unlike Oymyakon, Antarctica has no permanent civilian population. This meant that the people of Oymyakon, through sheer endurance, have become symbols of human resilience against nature's extremes. But why would anyone choose to live here? The answer lies in survival and tradition. The Yakut herders raised reindeer, cattle, and horses uniquely adapted to the cold. The land, though frozen, offered natural resources, fish-rich rivers, and hunting grounds. Over time, despite its isolation, Oymyakon became a permanent settlement, tied together by generations who refused to abandon their home. Life here was never easy, and even today, modern comforts are scarce. There are no central heating systems, no water pipelines, no supermarkets brimming with fresh produce. Instead, life is stitched together with routines that have been passed down for centuries. Chopping endless firewood, storing frozen meat, melting ice for water, and protecting one another from the deadly cold. For children, this history is not a distant story. It is alive in their daily lives. Every time Alyosha chops wood with his father, he is reenacting the same action his ancestors performed 100 years ago. Every time Sayana helps her mother drag blocks of ice into the house, she is continuing traditions that stretch back generations. Even the act of attending school wrapped in furs, walking across snow, carries echoes of history, because for decades, children here have braved the same journey, driven by the same determination. Yet, while history binds them to the land, the modern world whispers promises of something different. Television shows images of warm cities, of cars that start without struggle, of supermarkets filled with fruit from around the world. The internet, when it works, offers glimpses of schools where children ride bicycles in the sunshine, or take buses that don't need to run 24 hours a day just to avoid freezing solid. For the children of Oymyakon, these glimpses are both inspiring and confusing. They spark dreams of escaping the cold, but they also deepen the appreciation for quiet, unshakable strength of their home. The harsh climate has shaped not only the bodies, but also the minds of Oymyakon's children. They grow up quicker than many of their peers elsewhere. They learn early that comfort is fleeting and that survival demands constant vigilance. They are not shielded from nature's dangers. They face them daily. A broken glove, a short delay, a misstep in the snow. Each of these can turn a routine day into a fight for survival. And so, while children elsewhere may fear exams or scolding teachers, children in Oymyakon learn to fear something far more unforgiving: the cold itself. But within this hardship lies a hidden strength. The community instills in its youth a sense of resilience that cannot be taught in textbooks. Perseverance, patience, courage, cooperation. These are lessons learned every single day. When Alyosha boards Grigory's bus, he knows it is not just a ride to school. It is a lesson in trust, in endurance, in facing challenges together. When Santa reads by the dim glow of a lamp while her mother tends a stove, she knows that education is a flame of its own, fragile, but capable of keeping the darkness at bay. Outside, the environment itself seems almost alive, as if testing its inhabitants. The forests creak under the weight of frost. Rivers vanish under thick ice, their existence betrayed only by the faint sound of running water deep beneath. Frost covers every surface, turning trees into sculptures of white crystal. Even sound behaves differently. Voices are muffled, footsteps echo strangely, and silence can feel absolute, pressing on the ears like a weight. In this frozen stillness, life feels both fragile and eternal. And yet, within the warm walls of the school, the voices of children rise above the silence. They recite poems in Russian, solve arithmetic problems on blackboards, and share whispered jokes with classmates. These small acts of normalcy, so ordinary elsewhere, are acts of quiet defiance here. Every lesson learned, every smile shared, is proof that even in the coldest place on earth, warmth can still be found. For Alyosha, mornings are the hardest. The fire in the stove is burned low during the night, and although his parents have tried to keep it alive, the chill still seeps into the small wooden house. He wakes before sunrise, though in the depths of winter, sunrise comes very late, if at all. His breath fogs the air inside his own bedroom, and frost clings to the edges of the window glass. His mother is already awake, crouching near the stove, feeding it with pieces of birch wood. The smell of burning logs mixes with the cold air, a reminder that warmth is never permanent here. It must always be fought for. Alyosha dresses in silence. First the thick woolen socks, then the heavy trousers lined with fur. Then comes a shirt, another shirt, a sweater, and a coat so thick that he can hardly bend his arms. His mother wraps his hands in 2 pairs of gloves, then layers them with mittens. A scarf covers his mouth and nose, and finally, a hood lined with fur frames his small face. By the time he is ready, he looks less like a boy and more like a small bundle of clothing. He steps outside with his father, and the world greets him with a sharp, biting wind. The cold stings instantly. It is so intense that his eyelashes begin to freeze together. The snow crunches under his boots like breaking glass. He squints against the pale light, knowing that his day has only just begun. For Santa, the morning begins differently. Her family does not rely on the school bus as much as Alyosha's does. Instead, she walks part of the distance, accompanied by her older brother. Before leaving, she helps her mother with chores. Together, they haul blocks of ice from the river, stacking them near the house. Later, these will be melted for drinking water. Santa carries smaller blocks, her breath heavy in the cold, her cheeks reddened by the air. Her mother smiles, proud that her daughter is learning responsibility. When it is time for school, Sayana's brother takes her hand, and the two of them walk through narrow paths cut into the snow. The silence is overwhelming. The forest looms around them, trees coated in frost so thick they appear ghostly. Occasionally, a raven caws, its sound sharp and haunting in the stillness. Santa pulls her scarf tighter, her small boots sinking into the snow. She dreams of warm classrooms and hot tea waiting for her at school. The walk is exhausting, but for her, it is normal. It is life. Meanwhile, Grigory prepares for his daily battle with the bus. His mornings start earlier than anyone else's. He rises in darkness, knowing that if he does not reach the bus in time, the engine might freeze beyond saving. The bus itself is old, scarred by years of exposure, but it is his lifeline, and more importantly, it is the children's lifeline. Grigory knows every sound the engine makes, every weakness in the metal, every trick needed to coax it into movement. He pours boiling water over the pipes to loosen the frozen joints. He wraps the fuel lines with insulating cloth, then checks the tires one by one. When he finally climbs into the driver's seat and turns the key, the engine groans like an animal resisting the cold. For a moment, it threatens to stall. But Grigory is patient. He whispers encouragement to the machine, pressing the accelerator gently, coaxing it like a stubborn horse. At last, with a rumble, the bus comes alive, spewing smoke into the icy air. He exhales, knowing that dozens of children are depending on him. As he begins his route, the bus moves slowly through the snow, wheels crunching against the frozen ground. His windows are frosted, and he wipes them constantly to see the path ahead. There are no paved roads here, only tracks carved through endless white fields. One mistake, one slide into a ditch, could trap them for hours. Grigory grips the steering wheel firmly, his breath visible in the cold air inside the cabin, and prays the bus will hold together for one more day. When Alyosha sees the bus approaching through the frost, relief floods his small heart. He climbs aboard, peeling away his outermost layers, but keeping his scarf tightly wrapped around his face. The bus is crowded, full of children bundled in furs and coats, their voices muffled by the layers of fabric. Despite the cold, laughter fills the air. The children joke, they sing, they play small games on frosted windows. For a brief moment, the harshness of their world fades, replaced by the innocence of childhood. At school, Sayana and Alyosha reunite with friends. They hang their heavy coats on racks near the door, their boots leaving puddles of melting snow on the floor. Inside the classrooms, warmth greets them like an old friend. Teachers hand out books, chalk squeaks on blackboards, and lessons begin. Outside, the world may be frozen, but here, within these walls, life feels almost normal. The children forget the biting cold and immerse themselves in their studies. For the teachers, every face in the classroom represents not just a student, but a victory. Each child who made it to school that day overcame a dozen obstacles just to be there. Each lesson taught is not only about knowledge, but about hope. The belief that education can carry these children beyond the frozen boundaries of their village, into a world they have only seen in books and on screens. And yet, no matter how much they dream of distant cities or warmer lands, Oymyakon shapes them. It teaches them discipline, resilience, and a respect for the natural world. In the silence of the forest, in the cruelty of the frost, in the endless fight for survival, these children are learning lessons that cannot be found in any textbook. When the school day ends and the sun begins its slow descent, though in winter, it often feels like the sun has barely risen at all, the children prepare for the long journey home. They bundle themselves once again in layer after layer of clothing, preparing to face the merciless air outside. The warmth of the classroom fades quickly the moment they step into the frozen dusk. Alyosha waits for Grigory's bus, while Sayana and her brother begin their walk along the narrow snowy paths. The world outside feels even quieter now, as if frozen in silence. The only sounds are the crunch of boots on snow, the creak of trees, and the distant growl of the bus engine. Back at home, evenings in Oymyakon are a mixture of chores, warmth, and fleeting moments of comfort. Alyosha's family gathers around the stove. His father chops wood outside, his axe ringing sharply against frozen logs. The fire inside must never die, and so, every evening, hours are spent ensuring enough wood is prepared for the night. His mother stirs a pot of steaming soup. Usually simple ingredients, potatoes, frozen fish, or meat that has been stored in the shed. The smell fills the small room, bringing with it a sense of relief. For Alyosha, holding the warm bowl in his mittened hands is one of the happiest moments of his day. Sayana's evening is similar, yet different in its rhythm. She helps her mother melt blocks of ice over the stove. The water hisses and steams, finally becoming usable after hours of labor. Her father returns from tending to the animals, cows and horses that must be cared for even in these brutal conditions. The animals are fed with hay stored carefully from the summer months, and their barns are checked for any sign of frost creeping in. The family eats together in the dim glow of a single light bulb, powered by a fragile local grid that often fails in the coldest months. But even when the power goes out, they are never truly in darkness. Candles and oil lamps are always ready. A reminder that here, modern conveniences are luxuries, not guarantees. Children in Oymyakon do not spend their evenings glued to televisions or phones. As many elsewhere do, entertainment comes in simpler forms. Alyosha plays with small wooden toys carved by his grandfather, their rough edges smoothed by years of use. Sienna and her brothers sometimes draw in their notebooks by the fire or play games that require no more than imagination and laughter. Outside, children occasionally build snow forts or slide on frozen hills. Their play filled with joy, even in the face of bitter cold. The snow is their playground, and though it is harsh, it is also magical. Under the faint glow of the northern lights, their laughter echoes against the frozen stillness. Community life in Oymyakon is shaped by necessity. Neighbors often gather to help one another, especially when storms strike. Men work together to clear paths buried under snowdrifts or to repair roofs weighed down by ice. Women share food and resources, ensuring no family is left without warmth or supplies. In the evenings, it is not uncommon for families to visit one another, walking carefully along frozen tracks, their breaths steaming into the night air. Conversations are shared over steaming cups of tea, stories are told, and laughter fills the small wooden rooms. These moments of togetherness are essential. They remind the villagers that even in the harshest climate on Earth, they are not alone. Festivals and traditions are also observed with pride. During New Year's celebrations, children are treated to rare sweets, and families decorate small trees with ornaments passed down through generations. In spring, when the days grow longer and the weather eases, villagers celebrate with outdoor gatherings, feasting on local foods and enjoying the fleeting warmth. These occasions are treasured deeply, for they break the monotony of survival and bring color into lives otherwise dominated by shades of white and gray. Evenings are also times of quiet reflection. After chores are finished and the fire is burning steadily, families sit together in silence, listening to the crackle of wood. Outside, the temperature drops even further, reaching its lowest point of the day. The stars above shine like shards of ice scattered across the dark sky. The silence is profound, almost sacred. In these moments, parents whisper hopes for their children, hopes that they will grow strong, that they will carry the traditions of their ancestors, and perhaps one day that they may see a world beyond the endless winter. For Alyosha and Sienna, sleep comes under heavy blankets, their bodies warmed by the stove. But even in rest, the cold lingers. Their dreams are filled with images of snow-covered forests, frozen rivers, and the endless journey to school. For them, life in Oymyakon is not a story of hardship alone. It is a story of resilience, of family, and of an unbreakable bond with the land that shaped them. Life in Oymyakon is not only about routine and endurance, it is about constant danger, where even the smallest mistake can cost a life. The cold here is not just discomfort. It is a predator, always watching, always ready to strike. For the villagers, frostbite is a daily threat. Alyosha's father remembers the story of a neighbor who once forgot his gloves while working outside. Within minutes, his fingers had turned pale and stiff, frozen beyond saving. He spent weeks recovering, and even now, he carries the scars, blackened fingertips, permanently numb. Parents warn their children again and again, never expose your skin to the air, not even for a moment. The cold here is merciless. It punishes carelessness immediately. Machinery, too, can become an enemy. Cars and trucks, so essential for transporting food and supplies, often refuse to start. Engines crack in the cold, oil freezes solid, and batteries die within minutes. Men often keep their vehicles running all night, wasting precious fuel, because restarting them is nearly impossible. And yet, even with this effort, there are times when the machines betray their owners. A breakdown in the middle of a journey can be deadly. There are no quick rescues here, no warm garages or service stations. A stranded driver must choose between walking for hours through a frozen wilderness or waiting in the hope that someone passes by. Animals, too, pose their own dangers. Wolves still roam the forests surrounding Oymyakon. In the silence of night, villagers sometimes hear distant howls echoing across the snow. For the children, it is both terrifying and strangely beautiful, a reminder that they share this frozen land with predators. Farmers guard their cattle closely, building strong enclosures to keep the animals safe. In the depths of winter, when food is scarce, wolves grow bolder, sometimes approaching the edge of the village. There are stories of men forced to defend their homes with rifles, shooting into the darkness as glowing eyes watch from the tree line. Yet even more dangerous than wolves or frostbite is isolation itself. If someone falls ill, medical help is far away. The nearest hospital lies hours from Oymyakon, across treacherous frozen roads. In emergencies, families must rely on each other and on whatever supplies they have stored. Medicine is precious, often passed between households when needed. The villagers understand that here, survival is not about strength alone, but about community. Without one another, they could not endure. Children like Sienna learn these dangers early. Her mother teaches her how to recognize the first signs of frostbite, the tingling in the cheeks, the stiffening of fingers. Her father explains how to listen for the growing of ice on rivers, warning that one misstep can send a person into freezing water. For Sienna, childhood is not filled with carefree innocence, but with lessons in survival. Every day, she is reminded, in Oymyakon, the land does not forgive mistakes. And yet, amidst these dangers, life goes on. Men still hunt, women still cook, and children still laugh. Resilience here is not a choice, but necessity. The people of Oymyakon accept the risks, because this land is not only their home, it is their identity. To leave it would mean abandoning the traditions and strength passed down through generations. Night falls heavy over the village. The stars gleam coldly, and the temperature sinks even lower. Families retreat deeper into their homes, huddled close to the fire. But outside, the dangers remain, silent and unseen, waiting for the moment when someone lets their guard slip. In Oymyakon, survival is a constant battle, not fought with weapons or armies, but with vigilance, patience, and unbreakable will. Despite the unrelenting dangers of frostbite, wolves, and isolation, the people of Oymyakon have built an existence bound together by tradition, memory, and the rhythm of nature. What outsiders call extreme survival is, for them, simply life. Their strength lies not in conquering the cold, but in adapting to it, shaping their customs, food, and celebrations around the brutal climate. One of the oldest traditions is hunting. Generations of men have set out into the taiga forests, carrying rifles, traps, and a knowledge of the land so deep that it seems like instinct. They hunt reindeer, elk, and occasionally wild horses, their movements silent against the snow. For the villagers, hunting is not sport, it is survival. Every part of the animal is used. The meat for food, the fat for fuel, the hides for clothing. Alyosha's grandfather tells him proudly, "In this land, nothing is wasted. To waste is to invite death." Fishing is another lifeline. In the Lena River, even when the ice is thick, men carve holes with axes, dropping their lines into freezing black water below. With hands numb and breath frozen in the air, they wait patiently. The fish they catch, trout, grayling, and sometimes burbot, are immediately frozen solid in the open air, stored outside like stone until they are needed. In winter, villagers often eat these fish raw, slicing thin frozen strips like sashimi. The flesh is sweet and fresh, preserved perfectly by nature's deep freeze. It is a meal unique to this land, one that both nourishes and reminds them of their bond to the river. The diet here is heavy in meat and fat, because only these foods provide the calories and warmth needed to endure. Vegetables are a rare luxury, grown only in the brief summer months when the land thaws. Families preserve berries and herbs, tucking them away for the dark months ahead. Sayana's grandmother is skilled in these preparations, filling jars with lingonberries and cloudberries, which become precious bursts of sweetness during the endless cold. Yet the most extraordinary tradition of Oymyakon is how the people welcome summer. After months of living in near darkness, the return of the sun is celebrated like a festival of life itself. Families gather outdoors, fires crackling, as children run to the grass barefoot for the first time in months. For a brief moment, Oymyakon transforms. Flowers bloom, rivers swell, and green spreads across the valley. The air is filled with laughter and relief. But even in this joy, the villagers know the truth. Summer is only a pause, a fleeting reprieve. Winter always waits on the horizon. Education, too, adapts to these conditions. In school, lessons are not just about reading and writing. They are about survival. Children learn how to build fires in snow, how to track animals, how to tell when the river ice is too thin to cross. They grow up with an awareness that every skill, every bit of knowledge, might one day save their life. In this way, Oymyakon is not simply a village frozen in ice. It is a community built on resilience. Its people live not in defiance of nature, but in respect of it, carrying forward a heritage of survival passed down for centuries. For outsiders, this may seem harsh, even impossible. But for those who call Oymyakon home, it is a life rich in meaning, a life that demands courage, discipline, and above all, unity. And as the wind howls over the white horizon, as nights stretch endlessly and temperatures fall beyond imagination, the villagers remind themselves they are not merely surviving. They are preserving a way of life that has endured where few could, in the heart of the coldest inhabited place on earth. They continue their story one generation at a time. Summer in Oymyakon is like a dream, a sudden burst of color and warmth after months of endless white. The sun, which once hid for long stretches, now refuses to set, bathing the valley in golden light. For a few fleeting weeks, the land transforms. Frozen rivers roar with melted snow, the ground softens, and grass spreads across the hillsides. Children who spent the winter wrapped in heavy furs now run barefoot, chasing one another through fields that seem impossibly green after so much ice. For the villagers, this season is more than a relief. It is a race against time. Every task that the cold made impossible must now be done, and done quickly. Families repair their wooden houses, fixing roofs damaged by the weight of winter snow. Farmers and herders prepare their animals, leading horses and cattle out to graze on fresh grass. Small gardens appear, where potatoes, carrots, and hardy cabbages are planted in the thawed soil. Though the harvest will be small, these vegetables bring variety to a diet otherwise ruled by meat and fish. Berries bloom everywhere: lingonberries, blueberries, black currants. Families and children gather them in baskets, hands stained red and purple. These berries are treasured, preserved in jars to provide vitamins during the dark, freezing months ahead. Women trade recipes, boiling jams and fermenting herbs, passing down knowledge that has kept their families healthy for centuries. But summer in Oymyakon also carries its own challenges. The thawing ground releases swarms of mosquitoes that darken the air like clouds. Horses stamp their hooves, dogs snap at the insects, and people cover their skin as best they can. For all the warmth, life is never simple here. Nature always finds a way to test them. During this time, traditions and celebrations take on a special joy. Festivals are held outdoors, where music and dance fill the long daylight hours. People wear bright costumes, sing folk songs, and perform dances that tell the stories of their ancestors, of hunters, warriors, and spirits of the land. These gatherings are more than entertainment. They are a way to remember identity, to remind the young that they are a part of something larger than themselves, a culture that has survived centuries of hardship. For the children, summer is also the season of stories. Around bonfires, elders share tales of the old times, how their ancestors first settled here, how shamans spoke to the spirits of the forest, how survival meant respecting the balance of the land. These stories, half history and half legend, guide the children as much as any school lesson. Alyosha listens wide-eyed, imagining the wolves, the hunters, the frozen rivers of long ago. Yet, even in these bright days, winter is never far from mind. The villagers know that the warmth will vanish as suddenly as it came. By late August, the nights grow cold again, frost creeps back onto the ground, and preparations begin in earnest. Meat is stored, fish are salted and frozen, firewood is cut and stacked high. Families count their supplies, calculating carefully. For once winter returns, there will be no second chances. This cycle, the brief, almost frantic life of summer followed by the endless domination of winter, is what shapes Oymyakon's soul. The people learn not just to survive, but to value every moment of warmth, every taste of sweetness, every day when the sun graces the horizon. It is a balance of hardship and gratitude, struggle and joy, unlike anywhere else on Earth. And so, as the green fades and the white begins to return, Oymyakon braces once again for the cold. The festival fires burn out, the berry baskets are stored, and the endless night of winter prepares to reclaim the land. Yet the people do not despair. They have seen this cycle before, and they will see it again. For them, life is not about escaping the cold. It is about enduring it, carrying forward a legacy of survival that the outside world can barely imagine. As the final days of summer fade, a quiet urgency settles over Oymyakon. The first hints of frost appear on the morning grass. The rivers begin to harden at their edges, and the sun retreats lower in the sky. The people know the signs well. Winter is no longer a distant thought, but shadows stretching across the valley. Preparation is no simple matter here. Families work tirelessly, often from dawn to dusk, ensuring that no detail is overlooked. Men sharpen axes and head into the forest, cutting down trees and splitting them into firewood. The stacks rise taller than the men themselves, for they know that without a mountain of wood, survival would be impossible. Women preserve what they can. Meat is smoked, salted, or frozen solid in the natural deep freeze that surrounds them. Fish caught during summer are laid in neat rows, turning into frozen slabs that will later be shaved into nourishing meals. Children, too, are given tasks. They gather berries to store, help carry logs, or feed the dogs that will one day pull sleds across the frozen land. For them, work is part of learning, and every chore is a lesson in survival. The elders supervise, reminding the younger ones of traditions passed down through generations. Nothing is wasted. Every scrap of food, every piece of wood, every item of clothing has its place. And then, slowly, the transformation begins. Temperatures plunge. The landscape stiffens and hardens once more. Snow falls thickly, erasing the colors of summer in a matter of days. The air grows sharp and dry, biting at exposed skin, and the long night begins its descent over Oymyakon. Inside the wooden homes, life contracts into the glow of stoves and the warmth of thick blankets. Families huddle together, listening to the howling wind that rattles their walls. The outside world becomes distant, almost unreachable. Roads turn to ice, and vehicles left outside are quickly frozen beyond use. Horses and cattle remain sheltered, their breaths steaming in the dim barns. Yet there is no despair. The people of Oymyakon know this world, and they do not fight against it. Instead, they adapt. Nights are spent telling stories, repairing clothes, and teaching children the ways of their ancestors. Women sew fur garments, carefully stitching layers to guard against the deadly cold. Men carve tools, mend sleds, or sharpen knives. Time seems to slow, but it is never wasted. The cold brings not only hardship, but also a strange kind of beauty. The stars blaze brighter than anywhere else, as though the heavens themselves lean closer to this frozen valley. The auroras dance in green and violet streaks across the sky, painting the darkness with light. For those willing to look, Oymyakon in winter is not just a place of survival. It is a place of awe, but beauty does not hide the danger. Frostbite can strike in minutes. Metal burns the skin on contact. A simple mistake, like staying outside too long or failing to light a fire, can mean death. The villagers respect these dangers as they respect the land itself. Not with fear, but with caution and discipline. This is the rhythm of Oymyakon, a constant dance with nature, where summer's brief generosity is balanced by winter's harsh demand. Life is not easy, yet in the stillness and the struggle, the people find meaning. For them, the cold is not an enemy. It is the essence of their world, a force that shapes their strength, their resilience, and their very identity. As the months of winter stretch endlessly forward, the people of Oymyakon hold fast to the bonds that connect them. Here, community is not simply a choice. It is a foundation of survival. Neighbors help one another with woodcutting, share food in times of need, and gather together during the long nights to exchange warmth and laughter. In a world where the cold could isolate every person, it is this unity that keeps spirits alive. Isolation is perhaps the hardest challenge of all. For weeks, sometimes months, villagers may not see travelers from outside. Roads remain buried under snow. Flights are delayed, and communication with the wider world becomes fragile. Yet instead of despair, there is acceptance. Life here moves to a rhythm beyond the reach of modern clocks, a rhythm set by the seasons, the sun, and the endless frost. Children grow up learning that resilience is not an abstract idea, but a daily necessity. They walk to school bundled in layer after layer. Their eyelashes turn into ice before they arrive. They play outside in temperatures that most of the world would consider unlivable, laughing and chasing one another across the snow. For them, this is not suffering. It is life, and they embrace it. The elders, too, play a vital role. They are the keepers of memory, reminding the community of traditions that once kept their ancestors alive. Their wisdom, passed from generation to generation, ensures that no one forgets the lessons carved by centuries of cold. And yet, even here, change is inevitable. Global warming has begun to touch the edges of Siberia. Some winters are shorter, some summers longer. The permafrost shows signs of melting, threatening to disrupt the delicate balance of life. For the people of Oymyakon, this brings uncertainty. They are prepared for the harshest winters, but not for the unknown future that climate change may hold. Still, one truth remains: Oymyakon endures. Year after year, despite all obstacles, the village stands as a living symbol of human strength. It reminds us that survival is not about conquering nature, but about adapting to it, respecting it, and finding harmony within its extremes. For those who live here, Oymyakon is not a prison of ice. It is home, a place of challenge, yes, but also of deep connection, where every breath of frosty air carries the weight of history, tradition, and resilience. And so, as the stars shimmer over Frozen Valley, the story of Oymyakon continues, a story of human endurance in one of the coldest inhabited places on Earth. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of Siberia, share your thoughts with us in the comments below. What do you think about life in such extreme conditions? Could you imagine yourself surviving in Oymyakon? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more eye-opening documentaries about hidden places, untold stories, and the world's greatest challenges. Your support helps us bring you the stories that matter.